Alright, there we have it, guys. That was a massive day. Obviously didn't get as much done as I was hoping to, but man, that sanding is just taking forever. And for the battery to run out, it's just one of those things. It's obviously been doing a lot of work. Really happy with how the wheels came up. That gloss white paint really sets them off. Obviously done that on a scooter before. I did that on my Wii Nifty 50, so I did take a little bit of inspiration from that. But it's not going to be red, this one. I've got a nice colour pick for this. It is a colour that could be controversial. Some of you guys will like it, some of you guys will hate it, but I think for the theme of the build I'm going for, it should be a good fit. Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of The Bad Idea Bros. So we are again working on the little Suzuki Stardust. Yes, this thing is taking so much longer than I had anticipated, but it's one of those things. It's just going to take the time it takes. Now, since you guys saw it in the last episode, a few weeks have passed and I have made a little bit of progress with the bike. So you'll see panning across the screen now, I've actually managed to start laying down some colour. And in actuality, you can see there is a little bit of colour on the neck of the body there. So yeah, a little bit's changed, but honestly guys, you haven't missed a lot. The plan for today is to try and get this thing finished. I've said that probably the last two episodes now, but this one I think will actually happen. Fingers crossed anyway. So I'm going to start working on the gauge surround plastics. I'm going to take you guys through the process with that, and then you'll understand how I got to where I am with painting the panels that are on there now. I know in the last episode that you saw me sanding stuff down. There will be a bit more of that in this episode, guys. It's just how it is with these old bikes. So yeah, I think we might begin with putting the panels on the bike that I've done, just for a bit of motivation to keep going with this thing, to see how it's going to look with the new colour on there. And then we'll dive headfirst into what is honestly going to be quite a big job of the last two plastic sections on this bike. So yeah, let's do it. Alright guys, so I am very happy with that colour. That is looking really good on the bike, and on camera it actually looks a little darker than it is in real life, but it is so good. And I'm so glad that I went to the effort of masking up the red lines with the grey undertone there, because I think it would have been a bit too much if it was all the one colour. But that with the white wheels, it's starting to look really good. But I thought I'd just take a moment to show you one of the things that is making this build a bit slower. We've got these two bolts here. Now, because the bike was painted that blue colour and there was a lot of overspray, we've got overspray on the bolts. So this is one of the things that takes time, and I will be cleaning the heads of those bolts up with some 240 grit sandpaper. Not trying to get them back to absolute perfect, but it is just trying to tidy it up, because these would stick out like a sore thumb against that nice new paint. So yeah, it's just little things like that, guys, and I don't necessarily always show it on camera, but you start adding those little jobs up and it does take a lot of time. So I'll clean those up, we'll slap them into the bike, and then we'll get back onto that gauge surround plastic. Alright guys, so this is our first port of call, which is the gauge surround. Now, this is the one that we had to do a bit of building on. So we've got all this filler. You guys would have seen me in the last episodes basically making this whole corner again because it was missing. There was a huge chunk out of it. So this stuff sets like steel. So I'm kind of hoping that I can just hit it with the sander and then get the shape that I'm needed. However, I may need to file this. But generally speaking, the whole thing's going to need to be sanded anyway. We'll get all that blue off, get it back to a nice uniform surface, and get it prepped for paint. So yeah, we need to begin this and just see how it goes. Okay guys, so not too much work in that one, it was pretty straightforward, but we've actually got this whole thing sanded, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out, especially the repair. So you can see the lighter coloured grey there, that's the filler that I put in there that filled the crack that was originally there, so it's all come up quite well. And you guys might be wondering what these 4 holes here are for. Well, with the Stardust, from what I've found, they actually have this funny little windscreen, so I am going to try and replicate that. This is an old windscreen that I had hanging around. I don't even remember what bike this was originally for, but it's obviously way too tall. But I think if I section maybe 25mm, an inch, something like that, out of this, it's the right sort of curve and the right sort of size, which I'm going to poorly illustrate here, to basically make the windscreen that I need. So from what I can tell in the pictures, and I will put one on the screen if I have one, it's only a short little wind stop, so I'm going to try and replicate that, which is the next job on this. We would normally be painting this now, but I want to try and get the windscreen made, and if I can get that done, that's going to be more true to form of what the bike was originally. So let's give it a go. Okay guys, so that took a lot of small adjustments and a lot of fine sanding, but we've got something resembling a windscreen now. Now obviously the tape won't be standing on there, and you can see all these little marks. They probably don't mean a heck of a lot to you guys, but they were indication points of what I needed to do. Now to be fair, it's not absolutely millimetric perfect, but it is close enough. So I can probably just run a little bit of filler underneath that if I really needed to, but we'll see how it goes. Now, my original plan was to use these bolts and basically just pop them through the existing holes like so, and then let the windscreen sit in them. It will still work, but it's going to give me that air gap underneath, which I really don't want. So I'm going to have to think of another way of doing it, plus that's kind of ugly, so I might see if I can go in from the bottom and shorten the bolt off and maybe split the bolt in two, to try and just make some sort of little holding mechanism that I can then, on the underside, use just some more of this filler over the top. I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to figure something out, because we're basically inventing this. It doesn't exist because you can't get them anymore, but I'm pretty happy with that. So that's another big step forward for the project, but I'm going to have to spend a bit of time thinking about that. So that's unfortunately meaning that the bit I've been procrastinating on is going to have to start, which is beginning work and sanding some more on this horrible thing. So this is going to take ages. It's going to take so long to get these fiberglass repairs right, and I'm going to have to figure out something with the key surround. I don't really know what I'm going to do with that, but all I can do is start. So yeah, bit of sanding and we'll figure it out as we go. Okay guys, so I knew this was going to be the worst and the biggest job of the whole thing, but it's blown out considerably. Now, I've mentioned these fiberglass repairs a few times now, and just how much work was actually going to be into sanding them. You can see just how thick some of this is comparative to how thick the actual plastics of the leg shield are. What I didn't realise was this. So, the fiberglass isn't so much a repair as it is the whole structure of this portion of the leg shield. And we've got the same thing down the bottom here. So it's not the end of the world, it just means a bit more work. So because I've sanded this all back to the raw plastic, that was intentional, I'm going to just dust this section where the fiberglass repair is. You can see I've got a crack here that I'm going to have to deal with as well. And this section here, I'm going to just shoot a bit of black over the top of those, let that flash off and then sand it quickly, and that'll show me any low points that are in the filler. And then I am just going to take the easy way out and use some body filler to get it as smooth as possible. I can feel like this little indent down here, I can feel that that's a massive dent, and you can actually see that there's a little blue paint and filler left in there. That indicates that when I was running the sander over the top of this, that's a low point. So yeah, there's definitely low points in it. The other thing that I didn't quite realise the extent of was this corner. Now, if we look at this side here, you can see that it's obviously got this big fin that mounts. There is the corner off of this as well. That's not such a big deal. I can create that. That's not a problem. What I am going to have to do, though, is take a template of this whole thing and then reproduce it on this side, as well as the camera's not going to really do it justice, but where my finger here is the actual width of where it's meant to be. So if you imagine that coming down as a straight line, there's a considerable amount of material missing down here. So I do have some just some black plastic. It's about the same thickness as this leg shield, so it should work. I'm going to cut some templates out of paper, figure it all out, and yeah, start cutting some plastic and getting that together. I need a break from the sanding. This is an absolute nightmare. A lot of it was hand. You can see that the inside of the shield, it's still the grey undercoat sort of colour. That's fine in there because you're not really going to see this anyway. The parts that matter are all these parts that I've come back to bare plastic, and that's completely ignoring the fact that we've still got the majority of stuff in here to do. So I'm going to take a break from the sanding and start seeing if I can rework some of the structure on the missing parts. Okay, so a little bit of progress again. Now, obviously, you just watched me sand that black guide coat off, and you can see that we've been left with some dark patches here and on the other fiberglass repair here. Now, those dark areas are the low points, so what I'm going to need to do, because this is all pretty flat, it's actually not too bad through these sections, but where all these dark points are, where the paint hasn't fully sanded off, are actually low, and I can just feel that So what I'll be doing is getting some body filler and just lightly scraping it over and filling the dips, and then we'll sand it, probably give it another guide coat and then sand it again just to make sure that we're getting everything smooth. And obviously we started working on building this corner back up. Now obviously this is not perfect, it's a very rough cutout, but it is starting to give me some of the structure that I need. So what I'll do is offer this up into its position where it's going to end up, and I think I'm going to just get the die grinder with a little barrel sander on it. That should make quick work of it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, it just needs to be close enough that I don't have, you know, a 10mm gap here, so that it is actually filled in to some point and I can take up the difference in filler. So yeah guys, this thing is really blowing out of proportion, and keep in mind we still haven't really worked on this side yet, and I still have to make a key barrel cover here. So yeah, this thing is definitely blowing out of proportion. Alright, so I do feel like this is turning into a bit of a bad joke now, but we've gone backwards to go forwards yet again. So I've obviously fitted the leg shield back onto the bike. We've done a little bit more sanding, and it's looking a bit rough on there, but it's kind of where it needs to be. Now the reason being is we've gotten this little corner piece started. You can see there's gaps there, it's obviously not perfect, but we've got something to work from, so that's definitely a good step in the right direction. The other part that we've got are these random little items. Now, doesn't look like much, but this took quite a bit of time to do. This started life as a bit of 35mm PVC pipe. You can see that there's all sorts of weird and wonderful shapes cut into that, and I've actually cut and glued a section of the black plastic that I was talking about earlier, and we've notched that out. The reason being is that this becomes the structure of our key barrel. Now I don't really know what they look like standard, so I'm just sort of doing what I can, but that'll give us a base to work off of anyway. Obviously I'll have that all centralized, nice and even, and then the gaps that you can see above and below, I'll start building a structure. I don't really know specifically how I'm going to go about it. I think I'm just going to have to cut strips, very poorly illustrated here, but if I cut strips and start sticking them where they need to be, eventually we'll have all these gaps taken up, and we can just run the filler over the top, make it nice and smooth, make it look like it's meant to be there. So that's the first part that we've been working on. The second part, which you guys saw me start earlier, I'm pretty proud of this. The windscreen is successfully attached. Now obviously the masking tape is off of it, and you can see that it's all in one piece. I did my usual and started overthinking how to do this, and we were talking about the bolts and all that sort of thing. It's obviously worked out quite well, and it is very tidy. Now, because I spent all that time sanding the right body line onto this, I figured why not just epoxy it right in place. So that's what I did. I used a clear epoxy to put this straight onto the visor, or onto the gauge surround, sorry, and then use some of the two-part filler, which is, if that will focus, the grey stuff there. Just to clean up the edges. Now, obviously, this is still in raw plastic, so it's going to need to be painted that nice teal to match the rest of the bike, which does mean I'll have to mask this up. But unfortunately, as I'll show now, the weather has gone to absolute pot, so there is not really any chance of me doing any painting today. Now, aside from the little bit of painting that needs to be done on that gauge surround plastics, I've still got all that work to make that key barrel surround, and we still have to get that lower corner of the leg shield fixed and done right. Guys, there is hours worth of work in that, and that's not an exaggeration. That's probably a good 8 hours worth of work. So I think what we're going to do is, as much as I need to stop saying at the start of episodes, we're not going to be finished on this one either. I'm going to do the rest of this build off camera. You get the idea of what's happening. In the next episode on this, I'll give you a quick highlights reel of what I did to finish it. I'll get the paint laid down, and the thing I've been really waiting for is to get this legal with a license plate so I can take it for a ride. So that's the plan. It should hopefully work out. Hopefully it'll be the next episode following this one. If not, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. But guys, this has just ballooned into a massive job. That leg shield on its own has been... yeah, you don't even want to know. It's just been a nightmare. So yeah, I'll get cracking on with that. We'll do that behind the scenes, and the next time you'll see the bike, it should be all painted up and in one piece, hopefully with a license plate. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry that we're not done still. I really wanted to be done at the end of this episode, but that's the way life goes. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, please do remember to subscribe. Going for 5,000 subscribers this year. I think I'm currently at about 3,500. So if you guys do enjoy what you're seeing, please do subscribe. Helps me out immensely, costs you nothing. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.